This is Chris Hislop from the Montana World Affairs Council, and welcome to another session of What, So What, Now What, the International Affairs webcast that connects you with a global expert on an issue of the day, and in just 5 minutes, you become the expert. I'm very happy to welcome Paula Zamorano-Osorio from Survival International. Paula, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me, Chris. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm so glad you can join us from across the ocean. Paula,
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about Indigenous people's rights in Brazil and why that matters to us?
Basically at the moment in Brazil, there are over 300 Indigenous peoples. 100 of those peoples are uncontacted tribes. But the big problem is that the Brazilian government is fiercely anti-Indigenous. And President Bolsonaro has introduced or is trying to introduce a series of genocidal policies that will that aim to exterminate these peoples essentially in order to grab their land for profit. But why does that matter? Essentially, for two reasons, and they interlink. So the first one is that these are human rights abuses. This is international, human rights abuses against Indigenous peoples. Like in Montana, I think the Indigenous community is really closely rooted to their ancestral lands. The same goes for Brazil, for Brazilian Indigenous peoples. And what that means is that they're very cautious of looking after their forests and making sure it's there for future generations. Now, if the Brazilian government takes those or forces those Indigenous peoples away or kills them off, then you see the Amazon rainforest and other biomes open to destruction. And we know that the Amazon rainforest are the lungs of the world, and without the protection of the Amazon rainforest by Indigenous peoples, then everything related to biodiversity and climate will just become unmanageable. And the climate crisis, which is affecting everyone, like you guys in the States, here in the UK, and all over the world, we're seeing a lot of issues regarding that. And if we stand with Indigenous rights there, just as much as Indigenous rights all over the world, then we will be able to, combat this climate crisis a lot more. So, you might not know, but 80% of the world's biodiversity is found in Indigenous territories. So that just goes to show that they're the best guardians of nature, and that's why we should stand with them in this fight in Brazil, particularly for the Amazon and the other biomes, but across the world as well. So now what? In your little three. Essentially, we at Survival, we're always trying to give a platform to Indigenous peoples and their voices. And I think it's really important for every individual to try and amplify those voices. So you can do that online, you can follow Survival's page, but also potentially even more crucially is follow Indigenous organizations, either where you are or wherever in the world you are watching from. And also in the case of Brazil, Indigenous organizations like APIB and COIAB and OPI. And yeah, because they know they're leading the way in the fight for the Indigenous movement. So yeah. I don't know if you have any questions or.
I mean, Paula, that was incredibly succinct. I thank you so much for that. It really kind of, especially on the so what, where, it's so important that we all understand a little bit more about how an issue that we might read in the headlines really affects us in our day-to-day life. And I think you've really made that connection well. So I want to thank you for coming onto the show. Remind the viewers here that Paula works for Survival International, and if you'd like, you can get some more information from their website, and I suppose links to other Indigenous rights information via your site. So thank you once again for joining us on the show. And I'd like to also just give a special thanks to our sponsors for this show, the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation, Stockman Bank, and Allegiance, who help us bring this and other programs to you. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Paula. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yes, you too. Bye.